Welcome into the Daily Roto Sharks podcast. I'm Jeremy Kahn from 105.7 The Fan. In Baltimore, you can check me out on Twitter at JeremyKahn1057. Got two guests with us tonight. We got CG. The very first podcast I did with you guys was with Ben and CG. It's been a while. Good to have you back, man.
Welcome back, man. Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
and we got Bill, who has a new Abby, which I'm very proud of, on his Twitter handle. Bill, how's it going?
Oh, I'm just voting away from Machado, you know.
So if you missed it, at Couplable Hoosiers, and it's at DailyRotoSharks.com for CG, right? CG, you have two accounts, right?
Oh, yeah, the main account is usually the one that I'm on at Daily Roto Sharks, and my personal account is CGalligan18.
All right, well, so we had a little friendly wager as I was touting Machado and how he's the best third baseman in the game, and Bill here had a difference of opinion, so we basically bet some all-star votes and to change the Avies for our Twitter handles, whoever scored the most on Friday night. And I got to say, it was a little lackluster because, I mean, Machado had two doubles, which saved my bacon. But, Bill, was it a walk or a single and a stolen base?
I think it was a walk and a stolen base.
For Chris Bryant. So it was.
Yeah, it ended with 9. It was rough.
Anyway, we got a lot to do.
You're kind of splitting hairs with those two third basemen.
I don't care. I'll take the win.
All right.
But yeah, so we got a lot to get into. So we're going to do the early slate, which means we're skipping the Orioles-Yankees game. If you check on DraftKings and FanDuel, the early slate's starting at 2 o'clock. You can still do the all day. Pitching is very interesting on this slate, as if you're finding the cheapies and trying to work something for DraftKings, you guys tell me who you believe is going to be chalk. I know Ervin Santana is probably the highest price guy, I think, on both sites. We have the return of David Price coming back, which I'm not touching that. More power to you if you want it. And then there's a lot of guys that are in some awkward situations, at least in my opinion. So pitching's going to be interesting what you do, and we do have Coors Field on the early slate as well. So let's start it off with the Astros coming off the sweep of my Orioles. They go to the Twins, who just also swept my Orioles, which makes me feel good. The Twins have an implied run total of 4.3 runs. The Astros at 4.8 runs. It's Brad Peacock versus Ervin Santana. Looks like the wind's blowing out at about 17 miles an hour. Give me your thoughts, because these are two teams that do make contact quite a bit. Peacock was okay in his last start, but he only go 4 innings or something. So I don't know if there's third. Yeah, so you didn't get the full 5 to try to get the win there if that's what you were looking for. Ervin Santana's been really, really good. He's high priced, but this Astros lineup has been killing it. Let's start with you, CG. Are you looking at either one of these pitchers, and who do you like in your lineups?
I mean, the pitching, like you just said, I think Santana's probably going to be one of the more popular guys. I think last time I was on, I talked about how a lot of people like to target pitchers against Houston because they strike out a lot. Santana's not a big K guy, but he's probably pretty safe against them. Peacock, I don't know, didn't he shut down Detroit like the other day?
Yeah, he had like 8 Ks and 4 1/3. It was insane.
Yeah, like that came out of nowhere. I mean, I think you can pick on him with some Houston bats. I mean, with some Minnesota bats. Guys like Dozier, Sano, all those guys. I think that's going to be where I go if I go anywhere here. And then the Houston bats. I mean, you can always kind of play Altuve, Correa, and Springer pretty much against anybody. It's kind of a little mini stack if you wanted to.
Bill, what do you think? I agree with that.
I'm not touching Santana at all. You stack Minnesota tomorrow if you want to do it in GPP, and do not leave out Dozier. The dude's on fire. He's like that last year at that point where he was giving you seemed like a home run every day. He's hit a couple in his last few games. He's on fire. You don't leave him out of stack. Peacock, that was out of nowhere. You're going to get some bullpen work, so I do like getting in on that. So, I mean, yeah, I don't like any pitcher here. I like the bats.
Well, let me ask you this, and I'll stay with you, Bill, because looking at Miguel Sano and that high hard contact rate he has, if the wind's holding up, is that another guy that you're definitely putting in your stack along with Dozier, or are you going to look elsewhere?
Yep, I would. I mean, what is he, like 0 for his last 8 or something like that with a K almost every at bat? What is he?
Yeah.
9 last 13, and he has 10 Ks. But with that being said, yes, I would include him because that wind that'll make him pop fly a home run. and he's got the power to hit a 500. So I would not leave either of those two out of the Minnesota stack.
All right, let's move on to the Red Sox and the White Sox. Pale O send out David Holmberg. Your guess is as good as mine. The White Sox have an implied run total of 3.9. It's the return of David Price, and the Red Sox have an implied run total of 5.3 runs. I really like the bats for the Reds. I should say the Sox. That'll really confuse the hell out of everybody. I really like the bats for the Red Sox coming up tomorrow. It's interesting because they're a heavy favorite, but I can't trust David Price. And I thought with his first start coming back that his price would be a little bit cheaper on FanDuel and DraftKings. He's over 9,000 on both, and I can't pay that price for a guy coming off the DL that had a significant injury where they thought he was going to have surgery. He's taking so much time off, and Bill and I were talking about it beforehand. He hasn't looked good in his rehab starts. Where do you sit, CG, as far as the lineups go and on David Price as well?
Yeah, definitely don't think you can go with David Price. Maybe like you said, if he was coming back with some sort of a discount, maybe you can consider him. But even before he got injured and before he went on the DL, he was kind of struggling. So we'll have to see what happened there. But for bats, I think you're going to be all over Boston. All the righties against Holmberg, the lefty, which I don't know much about Holmberg, I'm not going to lie. So I would just assume he's probably like a AAA pitcher, and I like all the Boston bats against him.
Hey, Bill, I don't know what you think about the possible Red Sox stack because, we have Coors Field. How popular do you think the Red Sox will be on this early slate?
I think they'll carry a decent amount of ownership, but I think Coors will take up a lot of your cash game ownership. I do like the righties, Chris Young, Bogarts, Ramirez. The two White Sox not to sleep on is Garcia and Melky Cabrera. I like both those guys. They have the BBP to back it. I don't trust David Price at all coming off. I read something on Boston Globe. It took him a certain amount. It took him 65 innings in his last start to get through 2 innings. I'm not touching that at all. He's probably going to be on a pitch count with the injury. So I like the bats here again. I have no idea about this Holmberg guy.
Yeah. Young lefty against a powerful right-handed lineup. You can even, you look at what the Red Sox have done on the road at home. The White Sox, when it was US Cellular Field, what the hell are they calling it now? It's got a weird sponsorship. I don't even remember. Is it some insurance company or something?
As a Cubs fan, I don't even acknowledge the White Sox.
Well, there you go. So, but the ball does tend to fly out of that park, and I'm looking at it. It's 15 miles an hour out towards left field. It could be. You got to check it out come game day and see if it's blowing out because you could have some swirling winds there. But you got to like the Red Sox here. When you're looking at these implied run totals, the Red Sox are one of the highest on the board. When we get the Coors, those numbers are outrageous. But I figure that's where everybody's going to be targeting, obviously, for cash. All right, let's move on to the next game. It's the Dodgers and the Cardinals. I'm going to give a big thanks to the Dodgers and that pitching. Helped me get your avatar changed there, Bill. It's virtually a pick'em game. It's Mike Leake taking on Rich Hill. Rich Hill was a guy, as soon as I looked at the list, I circled him, and I'm going, man, I don't know if I can trust Rich Hill. I think it's a spot where he could get some Ks, but you never know what you're getting with this guy. Mike Leake, I think his last start he went out, he was pretty good. Cardinals have an implied run total of 4.2, and the Dodgers are at 4.4. Again, I said it's a pick'em game. Where are you looking at either one of these lineups, and do you like the pitching in this game at all, CG?
I think if I was going to pick one of the pitchers, I'd probably lean Mike Leake just because of I got a little bit more safety than I think Rich Hill does. Looks like Rich Hill only averages like 4.5 innings per game or so. He's got big time strikeout upside, but like you said, you can't count on that all the time. So I'm not sure I would really go with him unless it was maybe like a GPP play. For bats, I really don't know. I got, if I don't like Rich Hill, I like some of the right-handed St. Louis guys like Grichuk, Fowler, and Scotty. But I probably would avoid the Dodger guys if I like Mike Leake tomorrow.
Yeah, and I was looking at him questionable. I didn't think his injury was. I know he got banged up over the weekend, but Bill, what are your thoughts on the pitching lineup here and also any bats on either side?
I'm not touching any Dodgers. They just had a pretty tough series against the Cubs. Then they're traveling back east, so I don't really like touching that. I like Mike Leake some here, so I would look into him. He's had a pretty good run stretch here. His last few games, he's been of that pretty consistent 40 to 35, 31 area. As far as hitters, there's going to be a wind blowing out, so you have to like some hitters here. So I kind of like Jared Coe a little bit. I like Dexter Fowler a little bit, but I don't have a whole lot of interest in this game.
All right. Yeah, I mean, the next game is the one that everybody's going to be jumping all over. It's the Rockies hosting the Mariners, and you got Tyler Chatwood, 6.1 runs implied total for the Colorado Rockies. On the Mariners side, it's at 5. It's Sam Gaviglio. Again, it's a guy we watched last time. I don't think too much of him. Now you take him to Coors. Breaking balls aren't going to work. Everybody's going to be stacking up Colorado, and it would not shock me to see people taking these big bats in the heart of the order for St. Louis, Seattle. And one of my favorite guys, and it doesn't matter righty lefty, I like Gene Segura. I played him a ton this year, and he's actually paid off for me. But I think he often goes forgotten about because people look at Lindor, Correa, some of the other guys, and decide to grab him. Trey Turner. But Segura's been good. Give me your thoughts, because this is obviously going to be the most highly owned cash game, and see how people play it when it comes to GPPs as well. CG.
Yeah, for sure. All the bats are going to be in play, and I agree with you on Segura. I think he's one of the better shortstops in the league as far as hitting, and he doesn't seem to be too highly owned all the time, like you said. I mean, Lindor and all those guys are usually way higher owned than he is. He was even good last year with Arizona, so he's a solid player. He's leading off at Coors, like that'd be real solid for him. I mean, he'd probably get an extra at bat. Tyler Chatwood's not anything to be really afraid of. I think he shut down Arizona in Coors like a couple weeks ago, but other than that, he hasn't done very well at home. So I don't think there's anything special about like his ability to pitch well at Coors or anything like that. So all of the guys are going to be in play here: Arenado, Blackman, Cargo, all those guys.
Blackman. Just real quick, Blackman's another guy that's priced, and I think he should be up where Trout and a handful of the guys are. We get Harper, and obviously in Coors people love him, but outside of Coors, he's done fine as well. He swings a sweet stick. You get him in a leadoff spot. He's got power. I don't know how many times I look up and I'm seeing extra base hits, whether they're doubles or triples, and all that stuff adds up for a guy that gets on base as much as he does.
Yeah, for sure. And also, I mean, this is a perfect example of how to make GPP plays. You know what I mean? Blackman and Cruz are the two top priced outfielders tomorrow. They're both going to be super high owned, but then you've got Mookie Betts, Harper, Conforto, like right below them, probably half the ownership. So those will be good GPP plays for people.
All right, let's go here because looking at the pitching on this slate, a lot of people are obviously going to attack this game, and the bats are going to be a little expensive. I don't know if have you ever punted pitching? What are you looking at here as far as, are you going to try to stack this up and get this as much as you can into your games as you're allowed? Is this a game stack for you? Because I don't think anybody's paying up and going to spend any money on these two pitchers here. It's going to be attacking them for sure.
Yeah, I'm the same as CG. I'm not touching either pitcher. I mean, everyone's going to chase the big names here. So the names I'm kind of looking at to maybe offset some of the ownership is Parra, who normally sits in the 5-hole. Gamble, Heredia, they've been sitting in the 2-hole, alternating. Both can bat left-handed. So I'm looking for those cheaper bats for them that are like 3,400, 3,200 to kind of help. I think they'll carry some lesser ownership, but Segura is my favorite play in the whole game. This fits in well there.
Yeah, I mean, and he's a guy as well. I mean, you can get stolen bases. He's got pop. Obviously, in Coors, I feel like everybody has pop. I think last time you and I were talking about Ian Desmond has been interesting since he's got back in that lineup, because we know he's a guy that can kind of do it all, even from his days with DC and when he went to the Rangers. But, another guy that's down further in the lineup, if most people are going to be attacking a lot of the expensive bats, where's he at right now? He's 4.6 on DraftKings. But will that be a guy that maybe you think if he's lower in the lineup will be a little lesser owned?
I'll take a look at him, but I think the name will draw some ownership.
Yeah.
He just seems to be that guy that's going to get you that single, that double. But lately, that's been it. I mean, he hasn't broke 12 since God knows when. As far as I can see, game totals, May 13th, he was still hasn't broke over 12. So I don't know if I'll touch him much. I mean, I'll look at him for GPP, but right now there's no pop or no upside to him.
By the way, so we're going to move on to the Diamondbacks and the Pirates, and I just keep thinking, if you're playing FanDuel and trying to find one pitcher, all right, you can work something here. If you're on DraftKings and you're trying to find two, I mean, when they trot out two of these turds like Randall Delgado and Trevor Williams in this game, you tell me what you're supposed to do. It's a pick'em game. The Pirates have an implied run total of 4.6. The Diamondbacks at 4.5. Two right-handed pitchers that I think these lefty bats in the lineups can mash. Adam Frazier's priced at 4.7K on DraftKings. We were laughing about it earlier this week because he was virtually the same price as Nelson Cruz, and Cruz was facing a left-hander. No, by the way, both of them hit 3-run homers that day. But Frazier at the top of the lineup has been working out well. I know a Pirate stack won a bunch of people a ton of money earlier this week, and people love to target the Diamondbacks. CG, you staying away from the pitching in this game, and where are we looking at for hitters?
Yeah, definitely staying away from the pitching. I don't think I'll ever roster either one of these guys ever, honestly. The hitters, I mean, Arizona just overall is like one of my favorite teams to play on the road because I feel like everybody just plays them when they're at home. But I mean, like, you can't ask for better matchups than these guys have tomorrow. So this game, I mean, they're just, you could stack up both sides of these bats. I mean, these pitchers are just, they're going to be terrible. I mean, they're terrible.
All right, let's go to the way things are kind of set up with these two lineups. I mean, you're looking at an Arizona lineup that absolutely can mash. And hey, look, the Pirates I don't think they're anything spectacular, but situationally, I think you can find some guys here to use. I'm still trying to figure out what's going on with Andrew McCutchen. I mean, he's all the way down to 3.2K on DraftKings.
I'll say this as far as pitcher. FanDuel, I'm not touching either. But if you're doing a DK, GPP, look at Trevor Williams. I mean, Chase Anderson just looked like a Cy Young against this same team. He has the K potential here. They will put out the case. The innings are a little bit of an issue, but I don't know what his DraftKings price is, but it's 4,900, so it's going to save you some money. And like I said, it's a risky GPP play, but I'd look at him. I like rostering Jake Lamb. I don't think I'm going to stop rostering him until he just gives me a sombrero at this point. Just doesn't matter. And I think these are some of your cheap bats that's going to fit in with the Coors just because of the implied run total and who the pitchers are.
All right, let's move on because I think this might be, especially on DK, a game that people target pitching just because of the ballpark mainly. But you have Matt Moore, left-hander, going up against Tanner Roark of the Nats. The Nats have an implied run total of 4.4. The Giants at 4.2 runs. I don't know that either one of these guys are huge K guys, but there is some upside there on occasion. You can get that from either one. But you do have the big ballpark, which could keep the runs down. The wind's blowing out a little bit, but as I was listening to one of these weather guys, they were talking about the wind at San Francisco. Unless it gets up 15 to 20, you don't even pay attention to it because you get the swirling winds right there on the water. CG, give me your thoughts. You looking at either one of these pitchers and lineups? We know what this Nats lineup can do. It can mash, but again, big ballpark.
Yeah, definitely agree with Tanner Roark against the Giants. I think that's going to be a popular pick tomorrow. Like you said, it's tough on FanDuel because you got to lock in on one guy. It's really hard. On DraftKings, there's different strategies. You can go high low. You can go two mid-price guys. But yeah, Tanner Roark is probably going to be pretty popular. For the Nats, even with the big ballpark, I'm probably only looking at their right-handed guys that hit lefties well. So Worth, Rendon, and Zimmerman. Other than that, I don't think I would really take Murphy or Harper versus a lefty. And I think the ballpark, like you said, is going to limit some of the run upside here for sure.
Bill, what are your thoughts?
You guys are probably going to think I'm crazy. I think Roark will be probably more popular, but I think you should roster Matt Moore tomorrow for a GPP on FanDuel. You see what happened to the Cubs bats, and they're equally as good, if not better, than the National bats. And they traveled out west after a home game, got got beat down for 2. I look for there to be a letdown here, even with the day off for Harper and Murphy and them. I still like Moore for a GPP.
The one thing we should look up, I should have done this ahead of time, but with afternoon games, depending on the shade and how the batters can see, because there's something to be said. I've talked to a lot of the hitters that say sometimes depending on which stadiums you're in, it can greatly increase the pitcher's ability to just pound the strike zone because you're having a hard time picking up the baseball. And that'll be interesting to see. I didn't see a ton of weather for tomorrow for any of these games. There's one coming up where there's some rain. I think it's actually our next game. But, I don't know. Matt Moore is one of those interesting guys. Like I said, if you're rostering 2 pitchers and you're doing the DraftKings thing or playing on one of the other sites, I think that's a guy. He's one that I circled right off the bat. And you don't like necessarily rostering a pitcher against the powerful Nats lineup, but hell, you got to find some pitching somewhere here.
The K potential's there. They strike out 21% of the time. He's striking out 20.6, so it's a slim boost, but that swinging strike rate's at 10% for Matt Moore. Them traveling out west, I really like that narrative. Works real well.
All right, let's go into this Brewers and Mets game. It's in New York. There's a lot of rain on the East Coast. If you've been watching some of the games, I know it's been pouring here all day in Baltimore. But Robert Gsellman, whatever you want to call him, I've heard his name pronounced 3 different ways. Implied run total for the Mets is 4.6. Matt Garza for the Brewers. Matt Garza is another one of these guys. I never love rostering him, but again, when you're looking at pitching, trying to fit everything into your lineup, maybe a guy you actually have to consider on today's slate. But these left-handed bats for the Mets have just been absolutely crushing. You mentioned Conforto's price, and he's probably going to be super low owned unless you're setting up with a Met stack. Or talking about some GPPs, especially with the Coors Field being on this slate. We talked about the Red Sox and their matchup, the Diamondbacks and their matchup. Give me your thoughts. Are you looking at either one of these pitchers, CG, and Brewers, Mets, bats anywhere?
Oh yeah, the Mets, man, for sure. Like those lefties they're just crushing right now. I don't know what's gotten into them, but they're boomer bust for sure. Pitching, I don't know, man. Matt Garza. That's tough. That's tough to get behind. But like pitching is pretty bad tomorrow. But I probably would avoid both of these guys. I feel like I'm not recommending any pitchers. I don't think I've recommended one the whole show. So. But I probably would just focus on the Mets lefties. Maybe sprinkle in I don't really like anybody on the Brewers, honestly. I'm not really just the Mets lefties for me.
That's a tough one. Yeah, and Bill, give me your thoughts. Do you like either one of these pitchers? Do you find either one of them a little bit sneaky?
Actually find Gsellman a little sneaky. The Brewers do have extreme K upside for a pitcher, like 24%. The innings is a bit of an issue, so FanDuel not really liking. A DK number 2 GPP again, I would look at. The Mets lefties, I don't like rostering Conforto over 4,000.
Yeah.
I don't like it at all, but it's kind of he's coming down a little bit from his heater, it looks like. But Jay Bruce, Granderson, Duda's been on fire lately. A couple of good games recently.
Too, right?
Look at Duda's game logs, 25, 12, 25, 25, 24. If you're stacking them, you lock him in my opinion. I'm not touching the Brewers, and I would just like to say that I'm so happy Eric Thames is struggling. Get that juice out of his system, and he's just slowing down. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, by the way, the Brewers' implied run total is 4. It's one of the lower ones on the slate. So maybe Vegas knows something that we don't when it comes to this game. And there is expected rain. It is a big ballpark. So that's something else to kind of there for a little bit. Let's go to the A's and the Indians. Here we go. Carlos Carrasco, who's the top price pitcher here, Santana, depending on where you're looking. They're the biggest favorite on the board at roughly 240. And Daniel Mengden for the A's. The A's implied run total is 3.5. The Indians at 5.6 runs. Where are you looking here, CG?
Carrasco is going to be where I go for pitching tomorrow. The Indians just lit up. Who did they play today? They scored like 10 runs today. The bats are starting to heat up a little bit, I hope so.
Do they play in the Royals?
Yeah, it was the Royals. Yeah, Josh Tomlin, of all people, shut the Royals down today. There's a guy on the Indians that I've been wanting to talk about, but nobody really talks about him too much. This Zimmer kid, Bradley Zimmer, this outfielder they have, been really hot. He's been heating up recently. I mean, his actual, like his overall results, like his numbers, like his WOBA, RBIs, and home runs and shit like that hasn't been coming out. But like his hard contact is increasing. So I think this guy's like breaking out a little bit here. I think he's gonna be really sneaky, and I like a lot of the Indians bats against What is his name? Menden.
Megden.
Yeah, Megden. So I would go with the Tribe and Carrasco, and I would avoid all the A's hitters tomorrow.
Billy?
It's hard not to like Carrasco. I mean, I think he's in a good spot. I'm not a huge fan of the price with some of the bats on the slate, so I think you might get him a little bit lower. Indian stack, I've been convinced by Ben you stack them every day, and I'm with CG. I saw Zimmer play last year when he was down at AA, and he was torching the ball. He torched it at AAA, and he's kind of be like Ian Happ. He's going to be due here soon in the majors. It's going to be hard to get rid of him. So I definitely like him. I'm not fond of anything on the A's. Stacking them is real tough. It's a tough one, and I don't like doing it.
All right, let's move on to this last game. It's the Cubs at the Padres. Kyle Hendricks, another high-priced pitcher here, so maybe it's another one people go after against Jared Cozart. The Padres have an implied run total of 3.2. The Cubs, it's 4.4, and again, the Cubs are almost a 2-1 favorite. Chris Bryant will still, even without Machado on this slate, will still be the second best third baseman with Nolan Arenado in Coors for this slate. So we'll just throw that out there. Bill, you can attack that in a bit. Padres, any one-offs here for you, CG? Do you like Hendricks in this spot, big ballpark? And are you looking at any of the Cubs bets?
Real quick, I forgot.
Definitely.
Last game.
Yeah,
Last
go ahead.
game, Rajay Davis is a former Indian, and he knows a lot about Carrasco and them, so that is the one bet I would look at. I forgot to mention that.
All right. So Rajay Davis possibly in a one-off. CG, give me your thoughts on the Cubs and Pods.
Yeah, kind of Kyle Hendricks. I think the same thing pretty much applies to him that applies to Carrasco if you're going to pay up. Those are the two guys to pay up for, it looks like. Both have really good matchups. Like we said earlier, we don't really trust David Price, so we're not going there. I would think that the Cubs bats would be in play against Jared Cozart, Rizzo, Bryant, all those guys. I don't know if they've been hitting real well recently or not. So, kind of pick and choose which guys you want to take. Obviously, they're all very expensive. But yeah, I mean, for the Padres, I mean, you can always get guys like Ryan Schimpf and Solarte, like decent hitters. Will Myers, as one-offs if you're looking to go that route, but probably nothing that you would want to stack up against Hendricks.
All right, talking about those Cubs.
I'm trying not to be a homer when I say this, but I watched a lot of Cubs, and Kyle Hendricks is starting to look a lot like last year's last three starts. He's looking a lot better locating the ball. He's not hanging it lately. I mean, he's given up a home run or two, but the strikeouts are there, and he's starting just to work the corners. There's a lot of K potential here. If there's a team you want to go after for K potential, it's definitely the Padres. They're up, 24, 25%. The Cubs bats, I'm not fond of their bats. I know it's Jared Cozart, so I wouldn't mind a stack with their lefties, but they're just not hitting well. They look lost right now. Outside of today's game, they were back-to-back shutouts prior to that, so I'm not huge on them. I mean, Happ, Rizzo, Schwarber are probably the ones I like the most.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's the early slate, and that's what we said we were going to go through. Real quick, let's start with you, CG. Who are some of your top stacks? And I know we'll be in Coors, we'll be talking Boston. Do you see any sneaky stacks here?
Yeah, obviously Coors. I really like the Mets lefties. And like I said earlier, I love stacking Arizona on the road. I know Billy said maybe look at Trevor Williams as maybe a GPP play, but I just think that offense is loaded and they can go off anywhere. So I like stacking them on the road at low ownership. Seattle, we talked about in Coors. That's pretty much it for me. Maybe, yeah, like I said, Washington righties in the big ballpark in San Fran. Other than that,
What about you, Bill?
Indian stacks. I'm not going to mention Coors because guys know about it, but the Indian stack, that implied run total is high. I like that a lot. Definitely Minnesota's up there. I think they're going to be real sneaky. I think Houston will have some lower ownership. One team not to sleep on. God, it kills me saying this, but the Cardinals, they're always seem to be fairly low owned. And then what they have today, 4 or 5 home runs.
Yeah.
With a team traveling back, a guy with bluster issues, maybe some bullpen work there. So I definitely like the low owned Cardinal stack.
What's sneaky for me is it's weird, attacking David Price coming off of that. You talk about his rehab starts coming off the injury and just putting some White Sox bats in that lineup, and maybe you can spend up on 2 pitchers and kind of get some sneaky plays there. That's just me being contrarian looking at the White Sox, but Bill and I were talking beforehand. I always like attacking a pitcher on his second start coming back. So in 5 more days, I think they're playing the Orioles. I'll be stacking my O's up against David Price. So just something to kind of look at and think about for the future. But all right, let's play our game. And what we do is everybody does it, but trying to figure out who's going to hit a dong, who's going to hit a home run, have a big day at the plate. And we'll start with CG. Let him pick first. Bill, you can go second. I'll go third. We're each going to take a batter. It'll snake back, so I'll take 2 in a row and come back to you guys.
Are we leaving Coors out?
It's up to you. It's on the slate, so if you want to – it's up to you guys. You want to leave it out?
No. That's like calling an easy homer. I think we should
All
leave
right,
it out.
we'll leave it out. We'll leave Coors out.
All right.
You're up, CG.
all right, I'm up. Give me Jake Lamb against Trevor Williams.
Jake Lamb. All right. What do you got, Bill?
I'm going to go how do you say his first name? Garcia on the White Sox.
Oh, Avisale?
Avisel Garcia.
Yeah. I'm going to stay in that game, and I'm going to go Jose Abreu, and I'll go Hanram on the other side. Back to you, Bill.
I'm going to go with Santana, Carlos Santana. I like him the most.
I feel like somebody needs to go to that Indians game. Where you at, CG, for your final one?
Final one, give me Jason Worth.
Jason Worth. All right, so, a lot of interesting things there. Definitely check out the sheets. You've heard me talking about it over at DailyRotoSharks.com. Got all the great deals going on there. CG, Ben and I always discuss it. The fact that we're 25% away through the season and you guys got some great discounts going on. You've got stuff embedded right to the site, all these great articles these guys are writing. And you get to hear those guys constantly here on the podcast throughout the week. So we'll be back again doing this, throwing it out there for another big slate for Tuesday. But I think we're going to have some pretty big slates all throughout this week, deciding whether or not we're going to hit the early ones and late ones. But should be fun as we get into the summer months because the balls are going to be flying out of the park. So, Bill, CG, appreciate it as always, man, and hopefully we'll be getting you back on here real soon.
Sounds good. Warriors in 7, right, CG?
Oh God, here we go.
Warriors in 5, and I meant what I said. You remember when I said that? Yeah.
You guys are out of your minds.
Yeah. So what do you think?
I think it's going 7. Cavs in 7, just like last year.
Yeah, I mean, I hear some of the people that are yelling sweep this and that. The Cavs are a good team. I don't like how things have set up for them. I don't like the way their defense looks, even against these bad teams that they've been playing. It's been a fortunate run for both teams through the playoffs to get where they're at. But I
think people really honestly just don't understand how good LeBron is, and I don't think we've seen him really try hard yet. Honestly, I think he just saves it all for 2 weeks for the whole year, and now he's ready to roll.
You're probably about to see the best KD you ever saw, in my opinion. He's not going to look like a fool in the second file.
All I know is
Kyrie's like 180 pounds.
Kyrie's going to be great, but I still think the Warriors in 5. But we'll have some fun with this. Maybe we'll have a friendly wager or two. I'm not putting any Warriors. I hate the Warriors, so I hope I'm dead wrong. I'm pulling for the Cavs, but I just don't see it that way. Anyway, we'll get to some more baseball coming up tomorrow. Thanks for listening, guys.